Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, click the bell to be notified of future videos. This block is called rotation. It finishes at 12 inches. Here is our diagram. We have stitch and flip in the corners, or we call these the chisel unit, half square triangles, and then we have flying geese and half square triangles in the side units, and a pinwheel, which is half square triangles in the center unit. Here are 4 blocks set block to block, and you have a nice secondary pattern. I think this would be a great scrap quilt to use up your scraps. This is a 3x3 grid, so we already went over those, the corner units, the side units, and then the center unit. There's a total of 9, and each unit in a single grid will finish at 4 inches because this is a 12-inch block. Here are the patches. There are 4 different patches. They're all listed here. These are the cutting diagrams if you're rotary cutting. And we also have the AccuQuilt dies listed here for each of the patches. Over here we have the cutting instructions for all the 4 different fabrics. Some of these cutting instructions can get confusing because you're cutting the same size squares, for instance, for different parts of the block. So I started dividing them out. The A patch is the half square triangle. So all of the ones that begin with A, this is A, A1, and A2, they're all a 3-inch finished half square triangle. But the A1 or the A2 tells you where it goes. So let's look at this one. A, we'll cut 4 at 2 7/8 inches or 3 inches to trim for half square triangles 2 at a time. And then there you can cut patches, or you can cut a larger square to make 8 at a time. So you know these are half square triangles. This is a background fabric, and there has to be something that goes with it. So if you look down here and find the other A, you'll see that it's the blue fabric. So this fabric, the blue in the background, will be that half square triangle. And you'll see that the A for that one has the exact same instructions. So whatever you do for this fabric, for this patch or this set of half square triangles, you do the same here. And then if we go back up here and look at A1, we're cutting 2 the same size for half square triangles 2 at a time, or cut patches. So there's A1. Now let's look down here and find our A1. Here it is. So the background fabric will go with this fabric, and the cutting instructions are exactly the same. So if you're cutting squares to do 2 at a time, or you're cutting patches, then do the same thing for this as you do for this. And so that's how these are set out. And A2 is the same size square, but these are for the flying geese 4 at a time. These are just the squares that go with the flying geese 4 at a time. The other part, you'll just have to look down to see. Here is the D patch, which is for the flying geese 4 at a time, because it's a different patch. This is a quarter square triangle, which is down here. So I've got these all laid out and numbered, and I'll show you. Here they are all laid out. So as I cut, I came across an A, then I would put that A in this stack. So here's the background A and the blue A. Then here's A1. The background in the orange fabric, and here's A2, which is the flying geese. These are the sky part, the small squares, and the large square is the geese part. And in this case, this is the D patch. Then we have squares and rectangles up here. These are squares that just go places inside the block, and these are squares we're going to use for stitch and flip. The squares we're going to stitch and flip with these rectangles. So if you put everything together like this, then you can just simply pick up one stack and work on that. Now on page 2, we have our instructions. For step 1, you're going to make A1 half square triangles and A half square triangles. We'll make 4 of the A1s and 8 of the A's. So let's do that now. We're going to use the 2 at a time method. If you're using AccuQuilt or some other method, then this just tells you how many patches you need and how many to make that many half square triangles. So here's my A1 half square triangles, and here's my A half square triangles. We're going to piece these the same way, 2 at a time. And we take the light fabric and draw a diagonal line on the back and put them right sides together with the dark fabric. On each side of this diagonal line, you're going to stitch a scant 1/4 inch. So you'll have 2 lines of stitching. And do that for both of these sets of fabrics for the A1. You're going to also do the same thing for these 4 sets of fabrics for A. You can do them all at once if you like, or just do one stack at a time. Now we're going to cut this in half on the diagonal line. And when we do, we open them up and we have 2 half square triangles. We'll press these, either press open or to one side. And here's what they look like. Now we're going to trim these to 2.5 inches. I take my 6.5 inch ruler and I match the diagonal line to the seam line. Now I'm checking all 4 sides of the fabric. Up here I have room to trim. Down on this side I do. And then I look at my 2.5 inch mark and I see I have room to trim here and here on the side. But I'm going to move it down just a little bit so I'll have more room. So 4 sides and the diagonal line, match those. Then cut these 2. Now we'll flip this around and match up the diagonal line. Now the 2.5 inch mark on the side and the bottom, and then cut. You see there's not much being trimmed off here, but it's just enough to make it look nice and it's absolutely accurate. So do that to all of your A1 half square triangles and finish your A half square triangles. Next we're going to take our A2 squares and our D patch and make the flying geese 4 at a time. For the small squares, which is the sky portion, the large square is the geese portion, we're going to mark a diagonal line on the back just like we did with the half square triangles. Place these right sides together in this corner, in this opposite corner. Match these 2 sides, and make sure this line is nice and straight. And just like we did with the half square triangles, we're going to stitch a 1/4 inch on each side of this diagonal line. But for this one, we're going to stitch an exact 1/4 inch, not a scant, an exact 1/4 inch. Now we'll cut this in half on the diagonal line. We open it up and we have we have 2 pieces that look like this. We're going to press these seams open on both of them. Now we take our remaining 2 squares, put them right sides together in this corner. Do the same thing for this one. And now we'll stitch again a true 1/4 inch on both sides of this line for both of these pieces. Now we cut both of these in half on the diagonal line, and we open it up and we have our flying geese unit. When you stitch these diagonal lines on this piece, you want to begin or end right here in this point, this 90-degree angle right here where it comes out, and right here. The reason you do this is when you fold this over and press it, this will be nice and straight, hopefully, across the top. Now press these seams open and then we'll trim them down. Now these we're going to trim down to 4.5 inches by 2.5 inches. Because we cut the geese portion, the large square, the correct size we needed, and then we cut these squares larger, this measurement should be 4.5 inches or really close to it. So let's check it out first. And there it is. It's really close to 4.5 inches. We just have the nubs to cut off and maybe a little bit right here. Now we want to move this up around to 2.5 inches down here. Let's put that down. And now we check our 1/4 inch mark, and it needs to be slightly above that point. Let's see if we can move this up a little bit. So it's just right at that point, and we have 2.5 inches here. So you see there's not much to trim off. So we'll trim off the right side and the front. just very little to trim off. Now we'll flip this around, and all we need to do here is trim off the nubs. And do that to all 4 of your flying geese. We're going to take the B and the C patches and stitch and flip to make a chisel unit. On the back of the C patch, the squares, we've drawn a diagonal line. And we need to look at the diagram, or the instructions, to tell us which way to do the angle. So we want the angle to go this way. And I'll put this right sides together with the angle going the correct way. And this is the part we're going to cut off. So I put an X there. That means you cut that part off. You'll take this to your machine, turn it this way. And since this is the part you're cutting off, you're going to stitch just to the right of this drawn line. Not right on it, just to the right of it. So it's like a scant 1/4 inch. And do that for all 4 of these BC units. Now we've done the stitching, and this is the part we want to cut off. We're going to cut about a 1/4 inch away from the stitching line. And this doesn't have to be exact. And we're going to flip this over like this, and then we have our chisel unit. You press your seams open or to one side, however you like, and do all 4 chisel units like this. We're going to take 4 of these A half square triangles and make a pinwheel unit. This will be the center unit. Stitch these 2 together and these 2, press the seams, then stitch the 2 rows together. So that will be the pinwheel unit, the center unit. The next one, we take one of these BC chisels and one of these A half square triangles and a C square. We'll piece this. This is our corner unit. We'll piece 4 of these. So you'll stitch these 2 together and press the seams, and then stitch the chisel unit to the top of it and make 4 of these. And then we'll take and make the 4 side units. So we'll take the flying geese, we'll take one of the A half square triangles, and then we'll take one of the squares. Piece these 2 together, press, and then piece the flying geese on top of it and make 4 of these. Now I have my proppet board and all my units are done and pressed. We're going to put the block together, starting with the pinwheel in the center. And there's the block. We'll stitch the top units together, the middle and the bottom, press the seams, and then stitch the rows together. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, click the bell to be notified of future videos.